father, in his military career, was promoted many times. The only snag was he was also demoted. So fortunately, when he retired, he retired as a chief petty officer, but he was up and down from petty officer to chief petty officer, or like a swing, wasn't it?
Just like a swing. He can paint a picture, can't he? Just like a swing.
And, but it did mean that he had a decent pension as a chief petty officer.
You mentioned your father. There's a great picture of your father, who obviously served
in the
Navy, and a German guy.
Yeah, that was.
Tell me about that.
What was he called?
Gerald.
Gerald Thewin.
Gerald Thewin. And he happened to be a submariner as well as father.
Yeah, and they had great respect for each other.
Yeah.
Him and Gerald Thewin, but also Wing Commander Spence. Well, no, what was he called?
Not Titten.
Fitton, yeah, Titten. I've never heard anything like it, Bryant, really. For a man,
I knew it was something like
for a
that.
man of the cloth. Well, that was Fitton. So they represented the three armed forces.
Yeah.
And I think Fitton was senior officer president.
He was, because he was an air commodore.
Yeah, and father was second in command, and Gerald was able seaman.
Yeah, father.
Under seaboat.
Yeah.
How did he come to be here? Do you know, Gerald?
Well, he was a prisoner of war.
Prisoner of war.
And so he had to work on a farm. Well, he didn't have to. He could volunteer to work on a farm, which was a much better way of spending the time as a prisoner of war.
I remember the most touching moment was when we had the 50th VE-Day celebrations in the square, on the square we call it, and they had a cake, and Gerald and my father cut it both together as a sign of reconciliation. Yeah. And you know, father was like this, and Gerald was like this, proud as hell, you know, cutting the cake. So, yeah.
Oh, and he happened to be in Portsmouth. There is a great big tank of water.
Dolphin.
HMS Dolphin, yes. Where father's last submarine, HMS Alliance, is as well. And father was in charge of telling people, instructing people how to escape from submarines which had sunk. You know, you think of a submarine sinking, but if they actually sunk, you'd have to get out of it. And it was called the Davis escape apparatus, and father was in charge of it, wasn't he? And when Terry Woods was a young sub-lieutenant, and a submariner, he had to go there to be taught how to escape from a sunken submarine. And of course, who was in charge but father? Well, then when and of course father he was a wiry little bug, and people were absolutely afraid of him. But the first person that poor old Terry Woods saw when he came into Kingsnympton was Dad. And he did say he was taken aback. He was quite frightened, because at the time he was when he came here as a commander, but when he last saw father, he was a temporary acting sub-lieutenant. And of course they hit it off. There's no doubt about it. And there was another source of rum for father, and of course father, unfortunately, to all intents and purposes, was an alcoholic. And every now and then we had to sort of find out where Dad was, and he'd go round, and there were places where he dropped in where people would ply him with. Terry
Woods did. They would sit round there, him and Gerald Thewin.
On the other hand, Terry was very good, and he would, at least father was, he respected Terry, didn't he? If Terry said,
senior officer,
yeah,
therefore
if Terry said that's
enough,
then it would be. So, yeah.